We're going to change up our routine a little bit here tonight. We have a number of guest speakers that we're going to allow them to do their presentations first, so they don't have to sit through all our exciting budget talks and so on and so forth. They're welcome to stay, but first we're going to have Margie Ferrantino, the Executive Vice President of Mercy Flight Mercy EMS, and Matt Randall, Director of Medical Operations, Flight Gangrene. And I will turn the floor over to Matt.
Thank you. Guys, I guess I'm going to come up there, Wade. Yeah, thanks for putting me on the spot like that. So I'm Matt Randall. I'm the new Director of Medical Operations for Mercy Flight, the air and the ground service. So I just wanted to come and introduce myself to you today. Just a little bit about me. I'm from Western New York originally, but I spent the last 14 years in Tennessee, where I was a firefighter paramedic. Came up, the traditional route that way. Worked in the ICU for a few years, and then became a flight medic and worked up through 2 different air medical services in West Tennessee, and then in Chattanooga. So we moved back home about in August, I guess, yeah. So we got some exciting things happening at Mercy Flight on the air and the ground in our MEMS division as well. So, I just want you guys to know that utilize me as a resource to whatever you need to. And I'd love to work with all of you individually. I'd love to partner up with your agencies and just do whatever we can to keep serving this community. I've got my cards. I didn't know how many to bring, so if I didn't bring enough, please don't write me off your Christmas list just yet. Okay, but I'll give all of you one, or you guys can pass them down, or however you'd like to handle that. But my phone's always on, my door's always open. I love taking coffee breaks, so even if you just want to go grab a bite to eat or a cup of coffee and have a chat, I'm always open to it. Okay, so that's all I've got.
He's the new guy. I'll be taking the coffee. I think all of you know me.
My cards are coming.
Nice to see everybody again. Wade and Council, thanks for the opportunity tonight. I appreciate it.
Glad to have you. I thought you'd get bombarded with questions, Matt.
Oh, well, was there any questions? I'm an open book. You can ask me whatever you want. I'll give you an answer.
Why did you go back to New York State?
Why did I go back to New York State? So I'm gonna say that you're not the first person to ask me that. So no, this is my home. I grew up in Chautauqua County. My entire family lives here, save my mom and my sisters. So, we moved to Tennessee when I was about 14 years old. My mom was a trauma nurse, and she took over as a director of a trauma center in Memphis. And I liked some aspects of my southern upbringing, but I like a lot of aspects of my northern upbringing, and I get to blend those two. So this is home for me. This is my family lives here. I'm part of this community just like everybody else is here, and I got a great opportunity after like a 9-month interview process with Margie just to make sure that things were done thoroughly. To get an opportunity to come back here in a leadership position, and this is a great fit for me. We have a great organization. We've got a great vision moving forward, and I'm going to help us out in that vision, and we're going to be doing some really exciting stuff. So it was just a great opportunity for me. So, that, my daughter's never had a white Christmas, and we had to change that. She's hating shit out of me. That's embarrassing for someone from Western New York. So, anything else? Yes, sir.
This is kind of a selfish question, but are you going to be expanding in town of Niagara?
Am I going to be expanding?
Because we could use you in the city of Niagara Falls.
Okay, so I will say that I must defer the answer to that question to a later date, as is my political correct statement of the night. I will tell you this, that I never take anything off the table, and I never put anything on the table. I'm an analytical guy. It's something that we got to look at, and we got to see what the need is. Is there a need for us? What are the actions necessary for that need, and can we provide the highest level of service to that community? I am in this for the patient, 100%. So my confidence level is every patient that we put on the back of an ambulance or inside of a Bell 429, what I tell my crews are, I expect you to take care of that patient like it's my daughter, like it's my wife. Because I'll tell you this right now, this is the one part of me, and Wade can tell you this, and Margie can tell you this, and some of the other guys that work here for Mercy Flight can tell you this, the one unbreakable, unbendable, non-negotiable rule that I have is we will be clinically excellent in everything we do. And if we will not sacrifice that standard for anything or anyone. I have a deep passion for EMS, and I will trust every EMT basic all the way to critical care flight nurse. I have to be able to trust they can take care of my family before I let them take care of yours. And that's my promise to you. Okay. I put these guys through the ringer. I promise you that. Some of them hate me. All right? But we will be clinically excellent.
But to answer your question further as it relates to the position of our board of directors, and we'll evaluate every opportunity as it comes forth, and if the community asks for help, we'll do the best we can to help them. At the same time, we have to make sure that, we're doing a good job in the communities we're already servicing, and we don't spread ourselves too thin.
Right, no,
So,
I understand
like I
that.
said, there's nothing off the table.
I'm just looking at, because AMR has been absent a lot. And we've been using Mercy and other volunteer ambulances to come in quite a lot. I mean, the latest one was when the two little kids got hit on Pine Avenue, laying in the street. AMR had nobody. Thank God one of the paramedics cleared, he heard it, basically put the, for AMR, put the person on a stretcher and said, we're going to that, They basically kind of dumped off their patient in the emergency room and said, we're going to that. And they ended up showing up. One of your guys showed up, but they were still in the street a long time before anybody showed. And it gets frustrating.
It's always sad to hear.
Yeah.
And like I said, we don't want to ever create that situation in the communities we're currently servicing. So while we're willing to grow and willing to change, it has to be responsible and good for both the community and the organization and employees. But again, nothing's off the table.
Okay.
We'll evaluate every opportunity as it comes about and just do the best job we can.
Yes, because my thing, again, speaking selfishly, I'm gonna talk to the chief and try and get on a wheel. Since AMR won't go under contract with us, one call for Mercy, one call for AMR, and just keep spending it that way. If they don't wanna give us what we need it from someone. Because,
The only thing I would caution you about is that it's tough for an organization as it relates to sustainability and dedicating resources to go on a rotation like that. It's a very difficult,
Okay.
it's a very difficult path for us to make a commitment. We received RFP from the city, I think it was about a year or so ago.
Right.
And quite honestly, I'll just be honest, and this is not being critical, I really responded, we don't have an interest right now, but it's a tough one. By the letter
I
of the
know
law,
it
it's
is.
a tough one to meet.
I know it is.
So maybe an option for you guys is to take a look at that again, and if it's not such a difficult challenge for someone, you have a better response. I don't know, that's just my personal and professional opinion.
Okay.
Just some feedback.
I'm just looking for help. That's
I
that's my
understand.
thing.
I understand, I feel your pain, I've been out there. I've been out there like you guys are, and you're waiting, and it's at that time, it can be minutes, is like this, when you've got something critical going on, so.
Well, we've already done over 4,000 medical calls this year, and it's been, I can't give you a percentage of, how many times the ambulance weren't available, but it's frustrating.
In the meantime, until you figure out a permanent solution, we're there to help you in any way.
Oh, we call you, you know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it becomes more frequent, we'll try to reposition assets as we're here.
Okay, no, thank you.
Okay?
And the one thing is, when we talk about taking that hard analytical look, part of that is that we don't want to make a false promise. We got to take a good, hard analytical look at every situation and say, okay, can we do this at our standards and our care and our level? So I don't want to give you a false impression or illusion. What I can say is that I think we'd be open to looking at stuff, but we're going to be upfront with you on it and honest, and even if that's not the answer you may necessarily want. Is that fair
That's
enough?
all we want.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Transparency is what you'll get from us.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for me? My favorite color is blue. I don't enjoy long walks on the beach. I hate sand. Spent 2 years of my life in countries full of it. Don't plan on going back. Anything else? No? Okay.
We have a very good cross-section here, City of Niagara Falls, Niagara County, Orleans County, and Genesee County, so
Outstanding.
this is, take these messages back to your departments and your agencies. Give a sales pitch for the ground safety classes.
Absolutely. We're always open to doing ground schools if you guys need it. We'll get you on that PR. We'll get the aircraft out there. Like I said, I come from a slightly different system. I'll be honest. I'm a big proponent of you guys need to be able to handle what you can handle right there. But if you feel like you need a helicopter, don't flinch. Call it, and we'll get it in route. Airborne standby, ground standby. snowmobile, dog sled, I don't care. I'll get you resources if you need them, okay? I don't care if I have to throw a flight team in a hot air balloon and physically push the air out of my lips myself to blow them in your direction.
Last resort, I go back on an ambulance.
Right.
Last resort.
Right, last resort. But, you know, that's my big thing is in Niagara County and Genesee and Orleans County, those are the three big counties, the three counties.
This council is Niagara, Orleans, and Genesee.
Okay, so for a lot of you guys, right, if you get a call on dispatch and it's a PEDS truck, don't be afraid to say, I don't just want a ground standby. I want you to go airborne. I want that crew in the helicopter on the way to me, okay? If you get there and it's nothing to it, all you gotta do is say the word disregard. And we got a really good deal on Jet A. Like, we bought a whole truck of it, okay? And we like to fly those things, okay? The pilots like to fly it, the crew likes to fly it. So if you get us en route, if you get there and it's no big deal, disregard us. But I'd rather us be en route to you 99 times for you to need me once than for you to need me once and have a delay. I would much rather you just put us up, okay? That thing's 155 miles an hour. We're screaming towards you, all right?
How much longer are we gonna be minimum staff out of the Batavia base?
So that is a situation I'm working on right now. Margie and I have had numerous meetings, numerous talks. So we have a good roadmap, good game plan set out. Things don't change overnight. You know that, everybody knows that, right? One of the things that we're looking at is with the Batavia base is what was the volume after the sun went down? And traditionally it wasn't great. It wasn't sustainable for the aircraft. Now, so there's a deal on both sides of this. I personally would absolutely love to get that base up 24/7, rock on. It fits my staffing matrix, it fits my needs, okay? Now, on the flip side of that, if I open that base up and I go and put my neck on the line with Margie, who can fire me and send my butt back to Redneckville, all right? And we don't get any flights at night and we lose money because of something that I wanted to do, okay, that's my butt. So we have to understand that a helicopter is a resource. It must be sustainable, okay? Now, I'm not telling you to overuse it. I'm not telling you to call us for a stub toe and a tummy ache. But I am telling you that there are occasions, guys, where throwing them in the back of the truck and hauling butt is the bad choice. We're staying on the scene for 10, 15 minutes, stabilizing the patient, getting a critical care asset to you, okay, and then taking them in. And a perfect example of that is, I'll give you, and this is a real life situation, okay, where I'm from. Similar demographic to Buffalo, similar square mileage, very similar population. You stack Memphis and the Memphis metro area with Buffalo and the metro area, they're sister cities, in just about every way. Two different patients, okay? Patient one, MVC, okay? Patient one, load and go, thrown in the back of an ambulance, driven to the med, which is the trauma center. They arrived to the trauma center 10 minutes before the helicopter arrived that brought the patient that was sitting next to them in the car. The patient that got delivered by ambulance was acidotic, was hypothermic, had a coagulopathy. When they went to the OR, that surgeon opened their belly and the patient exsanguinated. They had to do a damage control surgery. They couldn't even close their belly. Okay, so they just packed and did a trauma close. That patient had a 21-day ICU stay, over 7 weeks in the hospital, developed ARDS on the vent, bad things happened. The patient that came by air arrived to the trauma center 10 minutes later, okay? However, they were not cold. They were not acidotic. They had been RSI'd, optimized on the vent. They had blood products and coagulation drugs on board. When that surgeon opened up that belly, he was able to do a complete damage recess in the OR, was able to close. Patient had a 4-day ICU stay, came off the vent on day 2, was out of the hospital on day 14, didn't have any complications or comorbidities. There are instances, now I can't give you a blanket statement, okay, but there are instances where staying on the scene and doing what you guys do best, taking care of patients, is a better option than throwing in the back of the rig and applying diesel fuel. Okay? It's hard to be as effective as we can be in the back of a moving ambulance at 70 miles an hour while you're getting tossed around because your EMT's 19. This is the second call he's ever been on, right? We've all been there, where you feel like you got a concussion while you're in the back, all right? Versus that nurse medic team that's coming. I promise you guys, we're putting some cutting edge equipment on that aircraft. We're rewriting the protocol book. We've already started it. We're going to be doing some high-level critical care things on that aircraft. We should have some very good patient outcomes. It may take me an extra minute to get into the hospital, but that may benefit the station. Okay?
So you're carrying blood products?
So New York State is our roadblock there, okay? However, that's one of those hills, you ever heard the expression, choose the hill you wanna die on?
Yeah.
I'll die on that hill, okay? And here's why. It's proven. I've carried blood products since day one in Air Medical. Both packed red, whole blood, liquid plasma. It works.
Yeah, you've been
Okay.
fighting it for years.
It works. So if that means that we come together as a community to try to convince New York State, I'm all for it. Sign me up. Where's the petition? What do you need from me? Okay?
We used to do transfers with blood products, we just had to take a nurse with us.
Sure. And I want to initiate blood products on a scene.
Yeah.
So it's doable. There's a roadmap to get there. Some of it may be painful. Some of it may require some driving trips to Albany and, making some articulate arguments. I'm all in. I'm willing to do it. You want me to represent you guys and drive to Albany? I'm pretty good at irritating politicians. Okay? And I've done it before. We got a staff of physicians. I think as a community, all the medical directors, for the most part, I believe, would be on board with that. So if we need to come together as a community, we can. I'll help you. Let me know what you need from me. Okay?
I have one other question.
Yes, ma'am.
Why do you think, why was Batavia able to sustain itself for so long, or I should say Genesee County operation? And the calls were there, I know the calls were there. What happened?
We don't know. Utilization's down. Utilization's down from the hospital. Utilization's down from the scene calls. Data shows us year after year after year that 75% of our demand for services is during the day. So we took during the summer months. So we took the normal 72-hour unit hours that we staff, and we said, okay, well, let's staff, if we have 75% of our demand during the day, we should upstaff during the day and downstaff at night, which is 25% of demand. So we took the Batavia unit hours during the summer and put them into the 4th aircraft. So during the summer, May to November, we're running Springville, Buffalo, Olean, and Batavia. And then at night, we go down to Olean and Buffalo 24 hours, which has been, really able to meet the demand. There's really not been demand that we can't meet. So it really comes down to, the finances of it all. Why not put your resources in where there's a higher demand? It makes all kinds of sense.
Now let me give you a scenario. So let's say that all of our ships in total, we're flying 2,000 flights a year. That happens, 2,000 flights completed a year. I got no problem walking into March's office and saying, hey, not only do we need to put these 4 aircraft 24/7, but we got to buy a 5th one.
You wouldn't even have to walk in.
I would.
know that.
She'd meet me in the hallway and say, I need you to go
I
to
think
Bell
I think I
and
can
sign
figure
some
that
stuff. Okay? So it is about utilization. We're not trying to sit here and tell you to fly everything, but we are telling you that based on the data, I think there are some occasions when we could have flown and possibly done a very good job at it, and we just weren't utilized.
I
Okay?
think sometimes too that people, and this has happened all my career, they hedge, they want to save us. They're afraid to make that decision and activate us because they don't want to, quote, waste the helicopter. They don't want to waste the paramedic. And it goes back years. And you shouldn't worry about that because we found, even when we've done in-depth utilization studies, especially with our Genesee County operations, because we're one and the same. So we want to make sure there's never, that we're never scrutinized to the extent where we have one division of the company feeding the other. We never wanted that to happen since day one, so we do some in-depth studies, and we found that there's been very few times that an agency's made the wrong call. Not even worth addressing, to tell you the truth. But we do think, from just what we feel and hear, that sometimes we should have been activated and we weren't. So I think we have more of the opposite problem in our area versus overutilization. And if it, I know now with all these articles hitting Facebook and all over the place about the sky-high bills of air medical services, I can tell you this because we just did this analysis and I'm very proud of these numbers. On average, our patients flown from the scene have $175 out-of-pocket expense on average. Those flown from inter-hospital transfers, $150, $135. So we averaged $150 out of pocket for our patients. And that tells me, and I'm very proud of this, that as a not-for-profit and to create no financial hardship financially, we're doing a good job. But that takes a lot. It takes the support of our communities, the support of our hospitals, our fundraising has to be successful, and utilization has to be there to sustain us. There's not improper utilization, but appropriate utilization. And we know our population hasn't changed that much in Western New York, that, you're right, Lori, that those numbers were there.
Yeah, and market is
there's-
hard.
And that's the other thing is when you look at a non-for-profit, I mean, grant funding, let's say grant writing. What's one thing that every grant looks at? Your volume.
Mhm.
That's one of their key justifications for award of grant money, is volume. So as a not-for-profit that always chooses the patient's best interest over the finances, which is another reason why I'm here, right? Because I could have gone and worked for a for-profit, I didn't want to. Because frankly, I think they're evil, okay? You should not repossess someone's car while their loved one is in the ICU because you flew them, okay? So we don't do that. But when we look at volume and we're trying to fight for grant money, volume helps in that argument sometimes, it really does. So like I said, we look at utilization, and we're not saying call it for everything, we're saying call it when you think you need it. But don't be afraid to put us in the air. Even if it sounds bad on dispatch, you get called to a MVC rollover with an ejection and your spidey sense is tingling, put us up. Put us up, we're heading to you. You get there and it's no big deal, just say the word disregard and we'll go home. It's not a big deal.
And never assume. I know there's been some comments made, our folks about, well, we won't call because Batavia's not in service at night. Okay? First point is that Buffalo is not positioned on the moon. They're not that far away. The second point is you never know where our aircraft are. We could actually be lifting from ECMC to go back wherever and could be to you actually faster than Batavia could be if they had a 10-minute launch. So just never assume we're not available. You should always place that call. You will get an honest ETA from our communication center, and that will be the response time of our launch time, plus our flight time is the emergency flight response time. We're not just gonna give you our air time, we're gonna give you the total, so that you can make sound decisions for your team and your patients. Because what we don't wanna have you do is, we'll tell you we'll be there in 20 minutes. Now, there may be a few minute factor here and there, but we're not gonna tell you you're gonna be there in 20 minutes and have you 35 minutes later going, where's the helicopter, where's the helicopter, where's the helicopter? If there's some significant delay, you're gonna know immediately. But you will get what we call emergency flight response time, which is the sum of launch plus flight is a total.
Anything else?
As Matt mentioned, those Bell 429s, it's a whole different world now than when I was in the BO 105s.
I was in a 206B.
The go-kart with rollerblades? Yeah.
Yeah, it took a little longer to get there.
I beat a 105 go-kart with rollerblades.
What was my 206B?
It's like a
then?
5 horsepower lawnmower engine you had to pull to start it. So, but yeah.
I personally feel the relationships went away. That's what I feel. So I hope you can bring that back.
Well, I will do my best.
I feel they really went away.
I'll do my
And I
best.
think it hurt.
Well, like I said,
And I'm not putting like Pam Cherry shows up once in a while and stuff, but I mean the relationship with the flight crew.
Right, we talked about that.
and so that is one thing we're starting anew on, is our flight crew actually have some built-in time to build those relationships again, to have some public relations
It's
time.
important.
And so that they can be visible in that community and go and talk to people. I am always available. If you call me, Lori, and say, hey, I'm gonna do a lunch, you know what I'm gonna tell you?
Who's buying
Sweet,
all that?
I don't have to go to the office today. I get to get out from behind this desk and leave. That's outstanding, right? So let's do that. I'm available to you as much as you need. Now, granted, if it's Christmas Day, I'm probably gonna say, so I'll give it to you next week, okay? Because we're gonna open some presents and eat some breakfast gravy. So, but anything else? No personal questions? Like this foreign dude just
Anything
showed
that
up.
is like folklore out there that you said, you know, you've heard that's, you know, sort of floating around that seems weird to you or anything that you
This is the top brass, open up, don't be afraid.
Yeah, we can avoid it from the Columbus County.
Absolutely. I will be there. You just let me know when. Okay? Like I said, since you guys want to ask, yes, I hunt. Yes, I talk to the twang and I say words like yonder and y'all. Okay? I mistook a cornfield for a cotton field when I got here. I was like, well, you know, over there by the cotton field, and the guy I was with was like, we don't grow that here. I get it, okay? I'm getting refreshed, so. Do you grow hemp? For rope though, right? It's just rope. That's it. Yeah, okay.
We got a couple free, farm
much of the
Well, that's different.
We just arrested somebody, they realized they had no value.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming all the way out here. Appreciate it.
If I speak out a little bit, I got elder care responsibilities, so just.
Oh, no, that's why you're first and Scott's next, so,
Okay.
you know, you guys don't have to listen to the rest of our facts and figures.
Well, no, I have an 89-year-old parent that I'm a sole caregiver for, so.
I have an 8-year-old that I don't even know what she's doing in my house right now.
I don't know, this is.
Her grandpa's with her, so you know how that goes.
Scott then, he started a little presentation at our last meeting. He's gonna elaborate on that tonight.
So, those of you who don't know me, I think it's a very small number. My name's Scott Dunn. I've worked for a multitude of ELS agencies around here, as well as volunteered for a few. One of the challenges I took on last summer, a year ago now, was working for a company called Pulsera. I know I talked to you guys briefly a little bit about it last meeting. What we are is a communication platform. Initially, we were designed as a hospital communication platform for the hospital emergency departments to notify their teams within the hospital on a one-touch method through a phone application or iPad application or Android, whatever you want to call it, application. What happened was we found there was a demand on the pre-hospital side for expansion. So the company then expanded into the pre-hospital side of things. And so now we not only can notify hospital teams from the emergency department, but depending on how the hospital system has it set up, those teams can be notified directly from the field. So right now, currently, Mercy Hospital Buffalo has a signed contract. We are in the middle of implementations with them, looking at hopefully a go-live date of December 1st, but anybody who knows anything about healthcare means that probably means January 1st, because it never works on time. And it looks like, and the reason, more importantly, I was up here for you guys, it looks like Mount St. Mary's is going to be their next one to go live. And it looks like they're going to be a similar time frame as soon as their contract is signed, if they sign. Again, it's not signed yet, but I have a pretty good indication that it's coming. So that would affect you guys more really than the Buffalo Mercy. I know Buffalo Mercy will affect some of you, but the St. Mary's one will affect you guys a little more. So just a quick, and again, it's hard to do a follow-up after Matt and Margie there because they went title technology and innovation heavy on me, talking about blood products. This is nothing compared to blood products. So what ends up happening is, there we go, okay. So your EMS starts in a case, you pick your destination hospital, your scene departure time, and your ETA is automatically calculated by the device based on your GPS location. Required for a first and last name. In this rollout, the new rollout now does not require a first and last name. There is an unknown button that you can push because we know our unconscious people can't give us their name. So the gender, also we have an unknown. We were required by law, we felt that to accommodate all gender identifications, so we have male, female, and unknown. So we identify all three. Those are the only parts that are required to activate a case. The rest of this stuff is obviously important to the hospital, but is not necessary to the hospital. Here I just have a stroke case up because stroke and STEMI are a vast majority of our cases that are ended up getting activated in the field. I believe the plan is for Buffalo Mercy initially, they're going to do time-sensitive emergencies, which is stroke, STEMI, cardiac arrest, and sepsis. We're going to be identifying their sepsis protocol and hopefully they're going to be working with the crews out in the field so that the crews and the agencies know what their particular sepsis protocol is to try and work with that into the REMAC and the REMS systems. Again, that's their problem, not mine. We're just the communication tool. That being said, I believe the plan with St. Mary's is going to be similar, except I think, again, a lot of this is speculation, but I want you guys to at least have a heads up, that St. Mary's is going to have all their patients coming in notified, so that the crew can be pre-notified of a bed assignment, and the hospital crew there can tell you if you're coming in with a finger laceration, they can send you a two-way message just saying go right to the waiting room. So the idea is to cut down on the wait times. So for volunteers, the idea is to get you in and out quick. Again, with the commercials, the same thing, get you in and out quick so that you guys can get the ambulances back in service, so that the crews aren't sitting in the hallway for 10, 15, 20 minutes, half hour, sometimes longer. So when you activate a case, what happens is there's your hope. That's what goes right to the ER. The ER ends up getting a similar, what am I trying to say? A similar screen. A couple of the things that we have that we can add audio clips, we can add images. So if the patient's unconscious but you have their driver's license, you take an image, you add it to the case, and that goes right to the ER. I believe some of the other part that's going to be going on at the smaller hospitals is they're going to try and do some pre-registration as well. So for those of you who are doing billing, you guys will have face sheets available to you quicker, and it'll allow a faster turnaround time. All of this is HIPAA compliant. We also integrate with Zoll with their monitors, so you can upload the EKGs right into the case. So you get a clinical quality EKG available to the physician as soon as that's uploaded into the case. The other way you can add add the EKG is to take a picture of the printout, and that is also HIPAA compliant and added in as an image. So when they activate, volume on, but what you'll see what happens is they know the hospital, the ER. That's the ridiculous alert that they'll get when the patient is coming. When they activate, the ER will get that. The ER will accept the patient or acknowledge the patient, and then everybody on the case knows that the patient's been acknowledged. These are the things that you'll see. These are the push messages that come back to everybody in the case. So CT's ready. So if you're an ambulance, you're coming into Buffalo Mercy at this point right now, or at some point in the future, St. Mary's, they can tell you ahead of time that CT's ready. Go right to CT. You're skipping the ER. You're not stopping in the ER, and you're not waiting for this stuff. You're going right to the CAT scanner to get this done. The idea is that these hospitals are under a lot of pressure to keep their door to CT times down, their door to NIH times down, and if they can get a heads up on the EMS coming with as much information as they can get, that'll allow them to pre-register. Pre-registration allows them to order CTs. Those of you who have worked in the hospital, you know that the first thing everybody asks is when they go to order a CT, what's the patient's name? I mean, we get stopped. What's their name? What's their date of birth? They'll have that before you get there, ideally. Again, if you don't enter it on your own, take a picture of the driver's license, and then that would go in there as well. That's pretty much the quick and dirty of it. Like I said, I don't need to get into too many details because we do individual training with the agencies as we roll out to the agencies. What's going to happen now is right now I have 7 agencies under contract. We call them contracts, and this was our biggest hiccup, was that everybody said, oh my God, a contract, what does that include? It's basically just a user agreement. It's you will use the application for the purpose it was designed. There's no financial arrangement, there's no financial exchange between EMS and Pulsera. What we do is the hospital invests all the money, which is pretty cool. We get the hospitals to cough up a ton of cash for the pre-hospital people to do some cool stuff. And that happens almost never. So there's some built-in back-end things that help the hospital recoup their cost and that don't affect pre-hospital care, so that's why they do it. So that's kind of where we're at. Buffalo Mercy is building in a stroke team activation. They're building in a STEMI team activation. They are also going, and Dr. Littler has been involved. She is super interested in it. She wants to be able to help those crews who are having difficulties with OB and birth. So they're gonna have an OB team built into it so that they can be advised of patients coming in on the OB side as well at Buffalo Mercy. Where that comes into play is that not only do we do images, audio clips, and video clips, we also are a telemedicine product. So you can actually do live telemedicine between the physician in the ER or the neurologist or the cardiologist or whatever, and you in the back of the ambulance. Again, HIPAA compliant, and it is able to be used either cellular or Wi-Fi data plan, either way. Obviously, there has to be some connectivity, because if you're not connected, you can't do a transmission. But either method is acceptable, and either method is HIPAA compliant, and either method is effective for the device. Dr. Gutterman from Buffalo Mercy did a telemed while he was in Winnipeg with a crew with us when we were doing a meeting here in Buffalo with Buffalo Mercy, because he didn't believe it worked so well. So he was in Winnipeg on vacation, sitting through a meeting that we did telemed with him. So the telehealth is acceptable, is an acceptable alternative now. The volunteers for you guys, it's a clinical advantage for you guys. The commercials, there will probably be some financial incentive as well on that end, because telehealth and telemedicine is a billable service. So when a hospital does telemedicine and telehealth, they are billing for the service. If it is initiated, whoever is initiating it is the originator of the case, and the opposite end is involved but not the originator, and there's billing codes for both of those. What they are, I have no idea. What the actual requirements are for reimbursement, I don't know. We just know that they're out there. So that would be something for the commercials to investigate with your billing practices or your billing services. Again, we're not a billing company, we don't get involved in it. We are also not a documentation company, so we want people to understand we do not replace the PCR. What we do replace, though, is that trip sheet that we always get jammed up on because we never leave at the hospital. So the trip sheet that New York State says we're supposed to be leaving, that we never do.
Hey.
This is sufficient. I mean, look, we know how it is. Look, I'm not naive to how many trip sheets we leave at the hospital. But this is by New York State's own admission, and talking to Ryan Greenberg at the Department of Health, this is sufficient for fulfilling your requirements for trip sheet. The other thing that is in effect, and again, I'm not sure how it'll affect the commercials so much, but for those of you who are doing BLS 12 leads, there's been an issue of having affordable equipment available to transmit those 12 leads, and that's been a big problem down in the southern tier. These guys they want to do BLS 12 lead, they can't find a way to find equipment that will do the transmission. Our video package, or our video properties where you can take a picture of the 12 lead and send it to the ER, that is acceptable per New York State. We've talked to Ryan. That is an acceptable replacement or acceptable alternative to direct transmission from the device. So if you're a BLS agency and you want to do 12 lead, and you have a Pulsar receiving hospital, which Buffalo Mercy is one, and you have Pulsar with your agency, and you do your 12 lead and you want to take a picture of it and shoot it to Mercy, you guys can make the decision, and those are acceptable alternatives according to Ryan Greenberg in the Department of Health. We had that conversation because there were some questions. There was a couple dozen or dozen and a half of those things sent down into the southern tier. So those are kind of where we're at with those special features for the non-paramedic ambulances, or non-paramedic ambulances, because advanced would be the same. For what we do. There's also, you'll see this little thing here, and that is a text box, and that's how you would receive your messages. So if the ER is sending a message to you, that'll light up with a 1. You'll click on it and you'll see the message, which will be go to bed 6, go to bed 12, go right to the waiting room, whatever the case may be. That's kind of the long and short of it. Like I said, there's other stuff involved, and as we come out to roll out to the agencies, we'll do a full training with everybody. Our website is pretty robust. There is a ton of demos that are on the website that are easy to follow. There's a ton of education stuff done on the website that's easy to follow. And like I said, it's a matter of just getting the agency set up. So one of the other things I just mentioned to Brent, we announced today that we now integrate with, we have the ability to integrate with ImageTrend, and ImageTrend is working with us on integration. So what will happen if you have ImageTrend PCR in the long term, again, this isn't today or tomorrow, but this project is actually in place, and was announced, that as you type, when you type in your information here, and as you go through, that will blow right out to Image Trends PCR program. What we had was some people felt that they were doing double documentation. You know, I mean, you're given a report anyway, so I'm not sure that was the case, but to alleviate that, like I said, we've got a public API where Image Trend has been the first ones to jump on board. I'm expecting the rest of them will jump on as well at some point. For the agencies to get their user agreements, I'm going to give you my cards. Just email me and I will shoot you a link. That link just opens up an information website. You type in the information, hit send, and then hopefully, if my boss is doing his job effectively, 24 to 36 hours later, you'll get a user agreement via email that you can electronically sign, and you just hit send. That doesn't commit you to using it. All it does is commit. It gives you the ability to use it, and it gives us the ability to enter your agency into the system as a provider, and we can link you up with the appropriate hospitals that you would respond to, or that you would transport to. So that's all it is. It's not a commitment. It's just our ability to get everybody ready to go. If you have providers that want to use it, or if you as an agency want to use it at some point, and go from there. So that's kind of all I got. Like I said, it's not nearly as sexy as blood, because blood products are sexy. But it's what it's. This is where we're at. It's we are the first region in New York to have access to it. Northwell Long Island Jewish is in the process of doing implementation, but they're so big that their implementation is going to take longer. So Buffalo will be the first place to go. Buffalo is actually going to be first to go live with new technology. And I don't think in 27 years of doing this job, I've heard that more than one or two times.
So when you say Buffalo, though, you only got, that would South Buffalo.
Right now, Buffalo Mercy is the only one on board. We're working with ECMC right now. Joe Bart has been very headstrong in his push to get us into ECMC.
What about
Rural hospitals?
Yeah.
I haven't.
Batavia, Medina.
So the way those guys got to go, we have to go to the parent and go out. So Batavia we have to go to Rochester General and come out. So what we've done is I've been around for about 14 months. The Mercy project has been pretty heavy. It's taken a ton of time. Right now I'm part-time. I'm not going full-time till the end of Q1 next year. When I go full-time, it'll be a little better. For the hospitals, like I said, for Rochester, the only problem we've run into is Rochester hospitals keep defaulting back to bricks.
Yeah.
But bricks doesn't quite do what we do. Mm-hmm. So it's a longer education process, and we're working on it, for lack of a better term. We've approached them. We get hits on our website. I get a list of hits on our who hit our website every day, and Rochester, University of Rochester, and Strong, and those guys are all on there every couple of days. So they've been hitting the website. Again, we just got to push. The problem with bricks is that it's a local product out in Rochester, so they feel very loyal to it, which is fine. We don't integrate with dispatch systems, which is what bricks does, and that's where I think there's some of the fuzziness of what we do. So hopefully we'll get there. Like I said, we're working on ECMC. I've presented to Children's in Buffalo. I talked to Tiffany there. They're looking at it. I think they've got a couple products that they're looking at. But the fact of the matter is, a bunch of us were in the race to get into Buffalo first, and we won. Because there are some competing products out there. But generally what happens is once one is in, it doesn't make sense to have competing products in the area, because then nobody uses anything. So.
18 departments in Genesee County, only 5 transport.
Mm-hmm.
So for the 9 transporting.
Mm-hmm. So what is in development right now and again, it's in development. We don't have a time frame. Is what's called the EMS handoff, and what that will allow is the BLS or ALS, doesn't matter, but the non-transporting agencies to start a case, and then they can transfer that case to the incoming ambulance. So if you guys at Alabama are there, you guys got 15, 20, sometimes 15 minutes before an ambulance gets there. If we're coming from Batavia. So, you guys are there, you can start the case. They said it's in development. What will happen is you'll know your ambulance that's coming, you'll scroll down, you'll hit it, activate, and you'll send that information, it'll get transferred right to the incoming ambulance. So that's the other reason why we make sure we come out to the non-transporting agencies as well to let them know what's coming down the road. Again, I can't promise you a time frame on it, I just don't know.
Do you know if the hospitals have a dedicated staff monitoring that?
What's going to happen is what generally happens throughout the country for the places that do have us, either a charge nurse or a triage nurse is dedicated, and they'll have it on a phone or an iPad that they keep in their pocket. So rather than sitting next to the MERS radio waiting for the MERS call or whoever you're walking by to grab the phone and takes your report, it'll be what's gone on historically, as it's been one dedicated person, usually the charge nurse, because they have a better overall idea of what beds are available and what services are available. So usually it's a charge nurse. Yeah, cool. That was easy enough. All right. I give you guys my cards. Like I said, I invite you to hit the website to get that. If there are cards, if you guys don't, there aren't enough.
Who are you?
Yeah, exactly. Who am I? I mean, you guys know. Like I said, my email address is scott.then@pulsera.com. It's pretty easy. So if you guys have any questions, like I said, or if you get to the point where your agency wants to at least start the process, again, we can get the process started. And as those roll in, like I said, I've got 7 now that are done and contracted. I've got another 6 that are in process, so it's just putting you guys in line. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott.
Yep.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Wade.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Matt.
everybody.
You guys
Have a
be
good
safe.
night. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to my report. I was unfortunately unable to attend the CMAC SEMSCO meeting in Albany this last time around, but my alternate graciously covered that seat for me. Yeah, we can kind of update from.
Sure. Some of the big stuff that is happening, the state's looking at some regulatory changes and kind of cleaning up some language. Some of the big things to kind of keep aware of is that certifications are going to be 4 years now. They're looking to make that change from 36 months to 48 months. What else?
Whole host of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the regulatory.
So with the regulatory changes, here's basically, in a nutshell, here's how it was explained. New York State wants to transition into a national registry model without being a national registered state. So if you actually look at the certification recertification manual for national registry, pretty much everything in there is what New York State's trying to mimic. So things about being actively involved with an agency are going to go away. And they're basically going to classify certifications. You're either going to be active certification or inactive certification. So this is one of the things we want to talk about. I wanted to talk about tonight because there's been a lot of information that's actually starting to spread out there. Yeah, I know. Hold your excitement for that. You know, where people are now providing misinformation because this hasn't even gone through. It's got to go through the whole public hearing, regulatory process. But they are looking to remove the active participation at your level of care with an agency. They're looking at changing continuing practice definition to essentially a point of you just need to verify a certain set of skills that they're going to mandate, which actually have changed, which is another thing I'm going to be talking about is the CME manual tonight. And various other things such as when you go through an EMS class, at the end you get 3 full attempts at the practical skills and you get 3 full attempts at the written. If you fail those, you do a remediation class and then you get another 3 full sets of attempts, both practical skills and a written exam. And it actually models. It actually models exactly what National Registry does. So that's essentially what we are.
Some other big things is that, and at the last meeting, we brought up computer-based testing. Nobody knew when it was going to start. apparently the state was farther along, or they're just gonna kind of throw a dart and see if this works, but actually this month, I think, with the CLI exams, they're gonna be rolling out the first computer-based testing. In the first quarter of 2020, and they actually put a date on this, that they're actually gonna be slowly doing away with on-site and replacing with computer-based testing for all levels of care. With that, it's a $28 charge to take the exam. When you take it, and if you pass, you get notified right away. You can use your pass certificate that you get as a temporary certification for 60 days. So kind of go back to the old way they did it with on-site. The other cool thing with computer-based testing, there's 29 different locations throughout the state. Depending on what the site is set up for, if it's open 6 or 7 days a week, you can generally take that exam anytime during the week. It's not just going to be on the third Thursday of every month. That test is going to be no different than the test that somebody's taking on paper. It's going to be the same exact test. So that's going to be coming out. As Rob said, the CME update is probably going to roll out for January 1st. We'll see.
Well, it's out.
No, the manual's out, but going live.
Yeah, it'll go I'll make sure it goes on.
They made changes to the AMT curriculum to incorporate the national standards, but it also sounds like a lot of what the national standards has is that it takes out a lot of stuff that AMTs currently can do. So it looks like they're going to push this to the region and allow the region, so each REMAC will decide whether or not they're going to allow people to do innovation and all that, like DOB construction and everything else. And that's pretty much about it. And then if anybody was there, New York City wants to have their own protocols instead of having the state do us protocols. That was like a 2-hour discussion, how they're different and how they can't train and everything else, so it was fun.
Unified.
More reason to just cut them out, and that's the 51st state. You know.
So does that mean New York City, instead of a 5-year restart, goes to a 4-year restart?
No, New York City will still have their 5-year restart. They might get 10 years.
No, we'll just license them.
But yeah, that was literally for 2 hours they talked about how New York City was different. I actually felt bad for the representative from the New York City REMAC because he's just literally delivering the message that nobody really in the REMAC wants to follow what the state does, and he got bashed about an hour.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The other update I'm going to ask for is one of our agencies in our region, COVA EMS, and their attempted expansion into Monroe County.
We expanded into Hamlin and we have that CON territory. And we ceased operations with Rockport on September 30th because they withdrew their support after $80,000 in payroll and $18,000 in legal fees. They decided they didn't want to do it. So that ended September 30th. Just to stop the rumors.
Okay, we'll move on to the program agency report.
So I have the classes listed on here. I got some of the TMEs are up on the website, so if you're interested, please sign up. The other training, the documentation class that's going to be here, I forgot to put a date, it's the 22nd of this month. Most likely in this room. We're going to have to filter to the other room because bar rate is 24 people. Food is being provided. Dr. Seth is going to be putting it on. It's at 7 o'clock here in this building, October 22nd. So if you're interested, please register through the website. So a couple of things. The state finally rolled out their new LMS system. Some people have been hearing about it, others haven't. The state has urged us to get the message out, as only 5,500 people have only signed up on the site, and there's like 66,000 so. I provided a sheet. It's the first page of the instruction sheet, which gives you the website as well as the initial kind of registration. If anybody wants the full document, I have posted it on the Lake Plains website, or you can just email me. I'll shoot the document right over. But it's pretty cut and dry. If you have a collaborative protocol sign-in login registration from a couple of years ago, that should work. If anybody even remembers what yours was. So RE/MAC's position on this is, and the state's position is, the deadline is December 31st, and they're sticking hard and fast with that. You might have heard that there's two different versions. There's an hour-and-a-half version, which is the long version, and the half-an-hour version, which is a shorter version. RE/MAC's position was, we're going to just allow the state to run the training for the BLS rollout, so you're going to be getting the hour-and-a-half version. In reality, the half-an-hour version is only half an hour online. You still have to do another hour's worth of education somewhere else anyway. So this way, you can do it all on the line. It's broke down to 6 modules, about 15-ish or so minutes each. So you don't have to sit there all in one sitting. You can break it down. It works on phones, so if you're sitting in an ambulance and you want to run one session or 2 sessions just sitting on the corner, it's very compatible with that. But in the end, December 31st is that deadline.
The half-hour one you're talking about, is that the ALS?
No, they came out with a half-an-hour version to supplement some of the regions that are doing their own BLS rollout training.
That's the different regions that are doing.
Yes.
Also, we had a couple employees at our place there is a ALS version for the state BLS protocol. The state is not accepting that. The providers still have to do the.
Everybody has to do BLS, right?
What was that?
Everybody has to do
Yeah,
BLS.
every level, every person.
If you go on, there is a module that will say for ALS providers.
Oh, don't click on it.
Don't click on that one. You just have to do the BLS one.
Okay.
We had a couple places for that.
And we had ours that were submitting it to STEMs. Are we on the wrong one?
I had a couple employees tell me
Yes,
that.
if you, once you get to the end, you can't submit your certificate because Orleans County is not on there.
Restart.
It said we had to submit to STEMs, and I'm like, STEMs isn't even our region.
I'll take a look at that.
Okay.
So where should we send our certificates to?
Right now, hold on to your certificates. Because I haven't had a chance to talk to Charlotte about it. I don't know if I just want to give one letter from the agency saying all our people are done, or if I want 1,200 certificates coming down.
Yeah.
So, personally, I just say, send me a letter saying everybody's trained. If I really want to look it up, I can look it up. Which brings me to RE/MAC is working on doing an ALS update education. They haven't rolled that out yet, but as soon as they get it up and running, I will send out information via the email. I will let everyone know at these meetings. Just know it is coming at some point in time. Right? The big news, yes, our CME manual has finally got rolled out. It is right here. Right? It is posted on the Lake Plains website. It is actually posted on the New York State website. Keep in mind, the forms have not been posted yet. The new forms that are going to apply to this aren't there yet for good reason, because somebody would download it and try to submit it early. Right? It's not scheduled to go live until January 1. I imagine that the forms will be coming out closer to that date. Every agency, all the agency leadership, course sponsors, anybody in that position that has an interest in the CME manual or has a definitive need for it, read it. All right, there are changes, especially at the agency level. There are 2 requirements that every BLSFR agency needs to understand when continuing to participate in CME. The first is you'll be required to certify at least one vehicle within your department that will be regulated by the state going forward. And you will have to somehow get on an electronic system, PCR system. Right? Now, with that said, the state is looking at developing a electronic system for PCR reporting that would be provided at no cost. The drawback is you're stuck with what they give you. Right? But at least that's going to be provided. They got an RFP out, and all these regulations or all these changes that are in the CME manual, you have 2 years to comply. You have until January 2022 to comply with them anyway. So it's not a big rush. I don't want agencies freaking out. If we need to have a discussion, get in touch with me. We'll sit down and figure out some options. The other thing, the other big change with the CME manual is the skills have changed and the way they want you to report the skills has changed. They have added more skills, essentially pretty much starting the BLS level going up. Everybody has to do what would be deemed a BLS practical skills session, all 6 skills. Right? As you go up in levels, there are added things such as IV, IO, cardiac issues or cardiac things. And the state has stated in the manual that they want everyone using the practical skills examination sheets to document those. So please read the manual, get familiar with it, look at the changes. And it brings me to the point that if anybody is maybe considering going to 100% online with the CME, do get in touch with us. We have the system up and running. Multiple agencies have jumped on board. So if that is something you want to do, please get in touch. Either Charlotte or myself. Actually, preferably Charlotte, not because I'm pawning it off on her, but she is running the program. So we can help you with that. And of course, the big change is the hours. The hours have dropped. However, from the initial set, they've added 5 hours because they've created 3 categories: the core, the non-core mandatory, and then the additional hours. So be familiar with those hours and what is required, because there are a couple of more classes that are added into there from the original draft.
And the non-core mandatory are in-class hours.
Yeah.
You actually have to physically send the class for these.
So one's like
One's like EVA, one's
Unless you're
moving
online.
No, even if you're online.
Say transfer the fee education as a accredited class online.
But if the non-core is, you have to physically be present, or the non. And then there's like resiliency training and stuff like that.
So what are the hours dropped to now?
So CFR, which is the new thing, CFR has actually been added to the CME program. So if you have CFRs, they can now recertify, or they will be able to recertify under the CME program. They are at 25 hours total. EMT is 45. It's 45, 50, 55, and 60.
No.
Plus those 5.
Well, that's with. Yes.
So NC basic is 45 hours?
Yes, total. Between the two, between the 3
CFR.
categories. CFR is 25 hours.
If they ran out though, they gotta, can they still do the CME?
If their card expired? No.
They still gotta do
So, but once they go through the class again, they wouldn't have to sit through that class, provided they can insert on their CME.
For the BLSFRs, where do we find the list of the required equipment to become certified?
So you just shoot me an email, I'll send you a list. It's part 800. It is part 800, but it's the emergency vehicle part of it, not the full version. Yeah, and actually, if you download if anybody is interested in that, if you actually download the CME manual, one of the last couple of pages, they actually provide a copy.
Page 36. Already done it.
On EVA, How recently do you have to take a review?
That'd be in the research.
As long as it's within the research cycle.
I've only taken it, I don't know, sometimes now or something.
So, question. You have to take EVAC for your research?
It's an emergency vehicle operations. It doesn't have to be EVOC, it can be CIO, it could be
FIS, internal
yeah.
training, whatever.
But what if everybody's not a driver on a piece of equipment? Or what if your member doesn't even have a driver's license, but it has an EMT card?
I think they just have to sit in the class.
But do you, CIVO, do you have to drive for CIVO?
No.
You don't have to drive for
You don't
CIVO.
have to drive the CIVO. And CIVO just updated the program, it's now CIVO 4. I do have the upcoming meetings I've listed. Apparently Niagara County moved theirs till next week. And that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you.
First, there were some questions on the 17-year-old EMT. The state's still looking into some of the regulatory changes, such as if the 17-year-old can actually sign somebody off legally for refusal. So they're still working through that. So as of right now, I don't know if 17-year-olds can legally sign somebody off. And then the other thing is that kind of got snuck in at the end of the meeting was the safety committee. We're talking about equipment and equipment changes in the future, and the proposal that is currently on board for a regulatory change that's going to come out for public comment basically allows the commissioner autonomously will be able to make equipment decisions based on what he feels is appropriate. A small example of that is that power cots with this change could become mandatory as a mandatory piece of equipment for every transporting agency going forward with this change. So when that comes out, power cots are good, but let's talk about price points and if every agency can afford them. So I think it's important when that public comment period comes out that everybody takes a look at that and gives honest feedback on that.
Absolutely.
Because on paper it sounds good. There are a lot of advancements that everything sounds good, right? You talk about this piece of equipment is good, but there's a price point, and who's going to end up paying for that? Because the state's not going to pay for it. So you're talking about unfunded, potential for more unfunded mandates going forward.
So you're saying that this one person is going to be able to make
The
a decision?
commissioner will be able to do this. So when that comment period comes out, honestly, I think everybody needs to, from every agency, read it and see how you feel about it and give feedback as whether or not you think that's acceptable or not. Because I strongly have a strong suspicion that power cots are probably going to be one of the first thing that, because that's Director Greenberg loves them, and they're great, don't get me wrong. But it's pushing unfunded mandates that, there are a lot of agencies that sit under our umbrella that barely squeak by.
Right, exactly.
So, you're talking about your small volunteer agencies that it's just more and more equipment that, who's gonna pay for it? Because they don't have the budget. It could just, whatever, he could just come out and say tomorrow, if this goes through, in a year or 6 months or 2 years, every agency has to have the power load and the power tower. He has the ability to do that. And also, not that, I'm gonna be a little more facetious, but it's not that far down the road, but ultrasound or CT, eventually, he feels that that's a great idea. Every transporting agency has to carry ultrasound or CT. That has that capability. That's more far-fetched, but that's, there's a lot of cool equipment out there, but it's expensive.
I've heard that rumor.
So, they're not gonna pay for it, so that's important. I forgot to mention that earlier, and I just got back up, but that's important for everybody to keep in mind that when that comes out, is it right for one person to have the ability to make equipment decisions? Because essentially, once this regulatory change goes through, you can make that without gathering input or listening to SEMSCO. Because essentially, the SEMSCO and the safety committee, with conjunction of the director, have the ability to work together and do what's best for everybody. But this one change.
EMS version of the Safe Act.
Yeah. Could have long-term ramifications for.
Oh, God, don't get them going on that.
Bringing the state
No,
down.
but I mean, it's another step is to throw the guys out. So it's gonna amount to.
Yeah.
You know, we all know, we can all kind of think of a handful of agencies that can barely squeeze by with their budget that, you know, you hope to God that they need a call just to survive for that week.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely. the-
Keep in mind that that's something that you have to, because it has to come out for public comment period, and, I know Rob does a good job of sending that stuff out in a very timely manner, just kind of keep that in mind when you guys see that come out, and don't be afraid to comment on it.
I've looked, nothing's gone up on public comment.
Yeah, because they just put it through, so I doubt, my guess is, like with anything that they want to try to squeeze by, will be a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's like, oh, look it over here, and it's like any state law that gets passed.
Yeah. That's scary when you think about it. Okay, we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
Balance hasn't changed, $14,693.88. Nothing was expended. I know that Colleen was in, gave her report on the grant, gateway, everything, yeah, the last meeting, so nothing has changed since then, so.
Any CON action updates from?
Any IOU? The only thing we've got out there right now is the South Wilson CON. I had given the packet, uploaded it for Dana to review. He only had, before he went on medical, because he went out for surgery, so he was out for a little while, and he's still kind of buried in everything. So I'll have to push him for his response to anything. But it seems like they gave everything that, when we sat down with them, and all the documents that Ed had provided them, they completed the packet better. The only comment that came back was their funding for their equipment. It was quite low. So I sent that back to them right away. She sent me an update. I don't know if I distributed that. I was waiting for more comments from Dana if he had any. But I'll send that out to our group so you have it. My only concern would be, you know, they were kind of quick to, oh yeah, well, if you need more money in that account, we'll just put it there. That they do realize they have to have the equipment. They can't just say, we're gonna put money aside for it. I think, you know, what's coming down the pike is, it sounds like they're gonna come and do inspections on everybody. So I don't think they're gonna get away with the fact of saying, yes, I'm gonna, you know, spend $20,000 on a monitor or whatever a monitor costs now for one individual and their department to be able to provide ALS service. So, but it's the route they're going, and all we can do is provide you with the information, have a public hearing on it, and see how it goes. Then the rumor that keeps going around was now with City of Lockport wanting to put an ambulance back into.
One day it is, one day.
Yeah, I'm like, my only concern would, you know, not sitting in a con chair, but my only concern is to be able to fund their fire department, put an ambulance service back into service isn't the reason why you put an ambulance in service. So it's, you gotta prove the need, which.
There's also other things we have to go back and look, because you have to see on their previous certificate who actually held their certificate. Because if it was the municipality, municipality cannot file for it.
There's other things in there, but it's just this,
through, but
this back and forth, and when I read that, I was just concerned with, it's like, okay, well, it's not to support the firefighters, it's, you have to prove that there was a need for that service, which, you know.
I think with everything right now, it's like, it's a political maneuvering.
Yeah.
And right now, we'll see what happens after the election.
So. And that's it.
Thank you. Under old business, tonight we were graciously hosted by the Public Safety Training Center here. We're looking for relatively permanent locations for our three counties, Genesee, Orleans, and Niagara. Al's working on a Orleans County connection for us, and he'll get back to us.
Go ahead and figure on the 11th, and if it's not gonna pan out, then I'll shoot you an interior message tomorrow and tell you no, but I'm 99% sure we can do it there if you want.
December 1st?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Niagara?
Niagara County, as long as they have the schedule in advance, they said that they'd be more than happy to, as long as we can give an advancement of the schedule.
Fantastic.
And we really want to do it in Alabama.
That seems to be a pretty good location, because it's kind of easy for the other two counties as well, so. Yeah, if you guys are willing to have us, we can make that relatively permanent.
Yeah, we can, feel like what's the dates for 2020, I'll let them know when it's
Okay.
on the calendar. As long as it's earlier we do it, the easier.
Right. Fantastic, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any new business to bring to the council?
I'd like to say a few things.
Okay, Doc?
To, I guess, coincide with some of Andy's comments, the CMAC is still struggling with universal acceptance of collaborative agreement. And, there's still pockets of agencies that, really would prefer to be more independent and not, really buy into the collaborative agreement on a universal basis. And then UBMD, on the medical director's side, is they actually have a fee schedule now for medical direction for all agencies. And any place that they're going, in where they provide medical direction for, any agency, the fee schedule is based on number of calls or whether they have either ALS or BLS. And it's not unreasonable, but there's some of the smaller agencies, aren't really funded for, the $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,500 a year that is anticipated by everybody in the UBMD sphere. So that's coming down the pipe one way or another. And I share Andy's concern about these unfunded mandates. That the commissioner is a really, really bright guy, but he's maybe a little bit too smart. And I really suspect that unless he's reeled in, that some of these equipment concepts and equipment ideas that he might have, the more that we collectively can anticipate a way to resist or defeat some of those things that might be a little bit wacky, and certainly in a price range that would really crush a lot of small agencies. I really think we should look forward to that.
Do you think we should send letters on behalf of all the councils? Think that might be effective?
I think we should wait, until the first equipment mandate comes out, or if it looks like it's coming out. I think that, we'll be telegraphed enough in advance, what might be on his mind. But I think that if you do it now, or it might not be unwise to at least alert, the agencies to what might be coming down the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something to get out to the agencies from the council, just kind of be aware that this is going to come out, take a look. It'll be a public comment period, and then I think during the public comment period is our ability as an agency and as a group to respond collectively and individually.
Do you feel he may slide a few easy ones out just to test the waters and then hit us with the big ticket items?
Well, it's a regulatory change, so it has to, this will be codified in law, so it will have to go through that, so we'll have a public comment period. So nothing will happen until that actually goes through, but, that regulatory change has to go through the executive process and the judicial process. And then public comment period, and then we'll go back for review. It's one of those things I think we'll probably be with strong opposition, probably especially from our friends from the south in New York City.
I would certainly think so.
But I think the more you have that is willing to take a stand on it, and some people may like it, I don't know.
Right.
Personally, I think it's a slippery slope and allow one person to even let her make a decision of what to put in.
Absolutely.
The way I can best put it is that there are the goal of the safety committee and the SEMSCO is to provide minimal acceptable standards for what agencies should, piece of equipment agencies should carry. And then there are levels above that.
Right.
If the agency wants to go above that, that's great. But our goal, especially I think government's goal, is to create minimal acceptable standards for everybody. And I don't think this does that.
And the history of the health commissioners too, this guy's young and ambitious, and, you know, if we look at the past commissioners that we had, you know, they don't last forever. Maybe we get lucky and the guy will be upwardly mobile and, you know, go to better paying, more prestigious jobs.
Now that, Dr. Taggart makes a good point of that, not to keep harping on the point, but this commissioner may be reading it. Commissioners down the road may not.
Right. Absolutely. Any other new business?
I have something for people to think about. If it's under new business or not, but a couple minutes of your time. There's a story that I have to share, and I'm going to be sharing it at the Niagara County EMS Council of a situation that a fire department was put in, and it's still not 100% resolved. And some of it starts with SOPs, SOGs, or your memorandums of understandings, or whatever you call them. But it could lead to a bigger issue for somebody at some point. On a Sunday morning of a holiday weekend, a member of a fire company was out doing this thing, looking at sheds, while a car accident happened right behind him. Not his fire company, but he heard the boom, seen something that didn't look right, drove out of that parking lot and assisted aid. He's a past EMT, did what he could as a first responder, and started to assist aid. The accident was the second part of the incident after the original incident was a person who self-ejected themselves out of a vehicle at 55 miles an hour. While they were administering aid, the past EMT noticed that this patient is probably to believe having a TBI. Fighting, reaching, grabbing, everything else. Another person stopped to assist. They got the patient loaded up when the EMS arrived, and that patient was taken to the trauma center. The person that stopped from the neighboring fire company decided he wasn't going to go get checked out or anything. Then he decided he was. It was suggested that he did. He was scratched and cut up from this patient. He had this patient's blood all over him, so he just wanted to go get cleared and make sure everything was good. While at the hospital, they did what they had to do. They followed their procedures, and he asked if he could get the results of the patient that went to the other hospital, which the doctor's answer was, no, we can't give you that information. There is a New York State...
Falls under the Ryan White.
Yes. So he then, proceeded to push that. I think it's like 9906 or something. The doctor at the trauma center drew the blood, did what they had to do. The patient was intubated and sent off to a different department. Where everything became a big fiasco is, how does the fire department that this gentleman belongs to get the information from the trauma center? Or who gets the information?
The CO should have it. They should be able to get it for them.
Oh, that's what you think.
Yeah, should.
That's what you think.
I'll tell you what the answer is. Medical director of the fire department call the hospital and get the results.
Nope.
Yes, they can.
Okay, well, the medical director tried that. It ends up...
Didn't talk to the right people.
Well, the chief of the fire department talked to their medical director, the doctor at the local hospital, the doctor at the trauma hospital, and another doctor. Talked to New York State Department of Health, talked to the occupational medicine, talked to the county fire coordinator, talked to the EMS coordinator, and I believe one or two other people. in the end of the day, the person that went to the hospital, to the local hospital, should have probably gone to follow the patient to the hospital they went to. It's an easier process. The other thing is they have to have a safety officer or somebody that works as their fire department safety officer, so at that point it became the local occupational medicine. It wasn't as easy to just try to have the medical director call to get the information.
I've never been denied that information.
Unfortunately, I was denied everything because it happened. I was the chief of the company, and it happened. And my medical director, who's outstanding and works well with all the rest of the doctors and works at these hospitals, was unable to obtain the information. Even New York State Department of Health said that you had to go through the process. The problem was the person didn't want to start the prophylactics if they didn't have to, because they were told that a lot of people that start these prophylactics could be out of work for a couple weeks because of the sickness that comes down. Right. So my suggestion is check your policies, follow the patient to the hospital, and make sure you have everything in good standing order, because it is definitely a life lesson learned. Especially at 9:30, 10 o'clock on a holiday weekend when nobody's at work on a Sunday.
Yeah, we require all our departments in Orleans County to submit 2 Ryan White Act reps every year as a point of contact.
Something that we're gonna talk about at our county MS meeting, but we haven't had it yet. It's next week. But it's definitely not an easy thing to obtain. That's all I think.
Thank you. Anything else under new business?